Welcome, friends. In today's video, we're going to show you 4 rare Lincoln pennies from American history that may look completely ordinary, but their true value will leave you stunned. These are the coins that millions of people once used in everyday transactions. Yet today, those same pennies are worth thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in the numismatic world. What makes these coins truly special are the tiny minting errors, metal composition changes, and historical details hidden within them, all of which have turned these simple pennies into extraordinary treasures. Many people spent these coins thinking they were ordinary, but for expert collectors, they've become hidden gems that grow more valuable with time. So, my friends, let's begin and uncover why these 4 rare Lincoln pennies are considered so valuable today. Friends, let's begin with the Lincoln penny that created a massive storm in the world of American coin collecting. The 1983 Lincoln penny. At first glance, this coin may look completely ordinary, but in reality, it's one of the most surprising and valuable coins in U.S. history. This was the time when the U.S. Mint made a major decision in its monetary policy to completely stop making copper pennies and start producing zinc pennies instead. The reason behind this change was simple. The price of copper had increased, so much that the cost of minting a single penny was higher than the coin's own face value. So the government decided that from 1982 onward, pennies would be made primarily of zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper. But my friends, that's exactly when fate introduced one of the biggest minting errors in U.S. coinage history. During the production of new zinc planchets, some old copper blanks accidentally got mixed into the minting machines. As a result, a few 1983 pennies were struck on the wrong metal, copper. And that simple mistake turned this coin into one of the rarest treasures in American numismatic history. The 1983 copper penny is a perfect example of what collectors call a composition error. When the mint switched in 1982 from 95% copper to 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper plating, a few leftover copper sheets were still used by mistake in 1983. The difference is almost invisible to the naked eye, but for professional coin collectors, that tiny variation can mean thousands of dollars in value. That's why if you have an old 1983 penny, don't ignore it. The first thing you should do is weigh it carefully. That's the easiest way to tell if it's an ordinary zinc penny or a rare copper era coin. Regular zinc pennies weigh about 2.5 grams, while the copper era pennies weigh around 3.11 grams. If your penny feels even slightly heavier, congratulations! You might be holding a hidden treasure in your hand. Such rare 1983 copper pennies have sold for huge prices at major auctions. At companies like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers, these coins have fetched anywhere between $15,000 and $25,000. And if the coin is in uncirculated or red mint state condition, it can easily cross $40,000 or more. It's not just a coin, it's a real-life jackpot. But wait, there's even more. The 1983 penny doesn't have just one but 2 rare varieties. The first is the composition error we discussed, and the second is the famous double die reverse. In this variety, the backside of the coin, especially the words 1 cent or a pluribus unum, appears slightly doubled. This happens due to a minor die shift during the minting process. For collectors, that tiny doubling is like striking gold, because double die coins are always in high demand and extremely valuable. Now imagine this. If a 1983 penny happens to have both the copper, composition, and the double die reverse, it could be worth between $50,000 and $75,000, maybe even more depending on condition. Finding such a coin is almost impossible. But for the few lucky people who did, it turned out to be a true life-changing discovery. This coin is not just a minting mistake, it's a historical lesson. It reminds us that even a small technical error, a minor human oversight, or an old blank piece of metal can turn an ordinary coin into one of the most valuable treasures in the world. So, if you have a 1983 penny lying around, here's what you should do. Never clean it. Cleaning damages the surface and lowers its value. Weigh it on a precise digital scale. If it weighs around 3 grams or more, get it verified by a trusted grading company like PCGS or NGC. If you spot any doubling on the lettering, then congratulations. That coin could literally change your life. In the end, friends, the 1983 Lincoln penny teaches us one simple but powerful truth. Never underestimate any coin. Sometimes, the most ordinary-looking penny in your pocket could be hiding a fortune. So go ahead, check your old coins carefully. Who knows? Maybe your luck is waiting in the form of a little copper penny from 1983. So friends, now let's move on to the next fascinating penny, the 1994 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it might look like an ordinary coin, but hidden within it is a secret that shocked the entire coin-collecting community. Most people assume that coins from the 1990s aren't really worth much, but the 1994 Lincoln penny completely changed that belief. This was the era when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins with advanced machinery. People used these pennies in their daily lives without giving them a second thought, never realizing that a few of them would one day be worth thousands of dollars. And this, my friends, is how destiny turned an ordinary penny into a valuable treasure. The 1994 Lincoln penny became famous because of one major error known as the close AM variety. If you've ever looked closely at the back of a penny, you'll notice the words United States of America. Here's where it gets interesting. On most coins, the letters A and M in America have a small gap between them. But on some rare 1994 pennies, those two letters are almost touching. That tiny difference is what makes this coin so rare and valuable. But how did this happen? In 1994, the U.S. Mint created two different types of dies. One for regular circulation coins and another for proof coins, which are made with extra care and detail for collectors. By mistake, one of those proof dies was used to strike regular circulation pennies. As a result, a handful of 1994 pennies were struck with the proof design, and these are what we now know as the close AM pennies. This mistake went unnoticed for years. It wasn't until dedicated collectors began comparing pennies under microscopes that the truth finally came out. The 1994 close AM penny was a completely different creation. That's what gives this coin its incredible historical significance. It's not just a mint error. It's a design mix-up that shouldn't have happened. Now, let's talk about value. A regular 1994 penny is worth just 1 cent. But if you happen to find a close AM variety, that tiny coin could sell for anywhere between $2,000 and $4,000 at auction. And if it's in pristine, uncirculated condition, spotless and shiny, its value can reach $5,000 or even more. Today, collectors say that finding a genuine 1994 close AM penny is nearly impossible. Most of them have already been discovered and are locked away in private collections. That's what makes this coin so special and so valuable. This penny teaches us a powerful lesson. Never underestimate a coin just because it looks ordinary. Sometimes, a simple penny sitting in your pocket could turn out to be a treasure worth thousands of dollars. So if you have any old pennies, especially from 1994, take a closer look. Check the back and focus on the A and M in America. If those letters are touching, then congratulations, you might be holding a coin. That's not only a piece of history, but could also have the power to change your fortune. The 1995 Lincoln penny, a small coin with a big story. So friends, now let's talk about another incredible penny that took the coin-collecting world by surprise. The 1995 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like an ordinary cent. The same Lincoln portrait, the same copper color. But in reality, this tiny coin carries one of the most famous minting errors in American history. A small imperfection during production turned it into a treasure that collectors still chase today. How the story began. Back in 1995, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies using high-speed modern machinery. But during this massive production, a small mechanical misalignment created a miracle by mistake. Yes, this is the well-known 1995 double-die obverse Lincoln penny, a coin where the front design shows a clear, doubling effect that makes it truly unique. The front side, obverse, like every other Lincoln cent. This coin features the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln. But what sets this one apart is the visible doubling on the inscriptions, especially on the words, "Liberty and in God we trust." This doubling occurred due to a slight shift in the die, the steel stamp that presses the design onto the metal blank, causing it to strike the coin twice, just a fraction of a millimeter apart. If you look closely at these letters, you'll notice faint overlapping lines. And that's what makes this coin a rare gem among millions of ordinary 1995 pennies. The back side, reverse. On the reverse, the coin features the traditional Lincoln Memorial design, with the statue of Lincoln visible inside, and inscriptions reading United States of America on top and 1 cent at the bottom. Unlike the front, this side doesn't show any doubling, which makes the error even more special. It's isolated only on the obverse. The rare variety, double die obverse. Now here's something interesting. This rare doubling isn't found on every 1995 penny. It only appears on coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which have no mint mark. If your penny has a D mint mark, meaning it was struck in Denver, it's a normal coin. But if there's no letter under the date, that plain 1995 cent, then congratulations. You might be holding a genuine double die obverse penny. Value and auction prices. The value of this coin depends entirely on its condition and clarity of the doubling. Circulated examples, those used in daily transactions, usually sell for $30 to $75. Uncirculated coins, those that still shine in red mint condition, can bring $150 to $250. Coins graded MS67 or higher by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC have sold for anywhere between $1,000 and $2,500. And the finest known examples, perfect, brilliant red specimens, have fetched over $5,000 in auctions. For a 1 cent coin, that's a shocking value. And it's all because of a small error that most people never noticed. How to identify a 1995 double die penny. If you think you might have one, here's how to check. 1. Grab a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe. Oh, look carefully at the words Liberty and In God We Trust. 3. If you see any clear doubling, like a shadow or a second outline on the letters, then you may be looking at a real 1995 doubled die obverse Lincoln penny. The lesson this coin teaches. The 1995 doubled die penny reminds us that even the smallest mechanical slip-up can transform an everyday coin into a piece of American numismatic history. It's a perfect example of how a minting error can turn ordinary change into an extraordinary treasure. So if you ever come across a 1995 penny, don't overlook it. Check it carefully. Don't clean it, and have it verified by a grading company. Who knows, that tiny coin in your pocket might be worth thousands of dollars and change your life forever. So friends, let's move on to our next fascinating penny, the 1997 Lincoln cent. At first glance, this coin looks completely ordinary, but in reality, it hides a tiny, minting error that turned it into one of the most exciting discoveries in the coin collecting world. The 1997 Lincoln penny is famous for what collectors call the wide AM error, a small but powerful mistake that separates this coin from millions of others. You can spot this difference on the reverse side of the coin, just below the words United States of America, where it says 1 cent. In this rare variety, the letters A and M in America are spaced slightly farther apart than usual. Now you might be wondering, how can such a small difference make a coin so valuable? Well, that's the magic of numismatics. Even the tiniest variation, a shifted letter, a spacing error, or a slightly different design, can transform an everyday coin into a hidden treasure. Back in 1997, the U.S. Mint produced millions of Lincoln pennies, but only a handful of them had this unique wide AM design error. When collectors first discovered it, they couldn't believe that such a normal-looking coin could actually be worth so much. Let's take a closer look at both sides of this penny. On the obverse, front side, you'll see the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, along with the inscriptions, In God We Trust, Liberty, and the date. Nothing unusual there. It looks like any regular penny. But on the reverse side, that's where the real story begins. Under the Lincoln Memorial, in the words 1 cent, you'll find that the letters A and M in America are spaced farther apart. And that wide AM is the key feature that makes this coin special. In normal pennies, those letters are almost touching. But on this rare variety, you can clearly see a wider gap between them. It might be hard to spot with the naked eye. But if you use a magnifying glass, you can easily notice the difference. And if you're lucky enough to find one of these wide AM pennies, then congratulations, you might be holding a small fortune in your hands. Now let's talk about its value. A circulated 1997 Wide AM penny can sell for anywhere between $100 and $250. If it's in uncirculated mint condition, its value can jump up to $1,200. And if it's graded MS-67 or MS-68, you're looking at auction prices that can reach $5,000 or even higher. Just imagine that. A simple 1-cent coin once used for everyday shopping could now be worth thousands of dollars because of one tiny design difference. That's what makes coin collecting so thrilling. You never know which ordinary coin might turn out to be a hidden gem. So friends, if you happen to have a 1997 Lincoln penny in your collection or your old jar of change, take a close look. If the letters A and M in America are spaced apart, you might just have found a secret treasure.